Hi, this is Mark Lebedew, and you're listening to First Tempo.
Our today's guest is really a person who lives and breathes volleyball. During the years, he has been a coach of Berlin Recycling Volleys and Jastrzębie Węgiel, and nowadays he is the head coach of the Australian national team, but also of the team of Warta Zawiercie, the sensation in the Polish Plus Liga. He is developing a website where he explains different aspects of the volleyball game, including the sports psychology. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Lebedew. Thank you for accepting the invitation to be a guest in our podcast, First Tempo. I would like to start with a question I believe is very important in order to understand your background. Your father translated the book My Profession, the Game, written by the great Soviet coach of the 70s and the 80s, Vyacheslav Platonov. Can you tell us more about his philosophy, which made the Soviet team the absolute best?
The story about my father is the easiest story. He came to Australia after the war when he was 16 years old. He was involved with sport. He really loved sport, and in that period in Australia, in the 50s especially, the different nationalities they formed groups where they played sport, and volleyball was one of the sports that basically came to Australia with the immigrants from especially Eastern Europe after the Second World War. So there were big populations of people from the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia especially, also from different parts of old Yugoslavia. And so he was involved with volleyball. He is Russian. I should start by saying that. He was the founder of the Australian Volleyball Federation and the first secretary of the federation. And in this position, as the representative of the federation and also as a fan, he traveled to different events in the 70s for FIVB congresses, for World Championships, for World Cup, because it was also the closest event to Australia and easiest to organise. And there he met Platonov and became quite friendly with him and spent time with him talking volleyball. They shared the Russian language, of course, and he became, let's say, good acquaintances, I guess. He had some contact with him at different times, and when in his travels to old Soviet Union and to Russia after that, he bought and brought back to Australia the books written by Platonov. I think he wrote three or four books, and at some point we had the idea to translate one of them. So this one in particular is really focused on how to coach and how to be a coach and this part of volleyball. And we thought that it could be useful for a non-Russian speaking audience. And my father volunteered his time because to translate it. And he made contact with, at that time, he'd already passed away. So with Platonov's widow, who gave permission to translate it and to publish it in English, and that's what we were able to do after, I guess it was 2 or 3 years work.
Can you just mention and tell us something about his philosophy, the philosophy of Platonov?
It's really hard for me to describe it because I have one book which is a little bit has a little bit of things, but without watching him work and spending time with him, it's a little bit difficult to really to say what it is. But the things that I think about when I read the book are that his approach to coaching and working with the team was very practical. So he was not interested in great philosophies or great theories. He was interested in working with people and helping them to get better and to make a team. One thing for me that was also really surprising, and this is a cultural point, is we had in Australia when I grew up, we had some idea of what it was like in the Soviet Union, and very hierarchical and autocratic. But from reading his book, and that he was not an autocratic figure in the way that we imagine. So, of course, he was an authority figure. It's not possible for a coach to not have authority, but it was a really strong impression that he worked with the players. He was open to talking with them. To one of the chapters is about working with stars, and if you stars become stars because they do things that are different from other people, because they push the game in ways that nobody has pushed it yet, and the coach has to make allowances for them because they are ahead of everybody else. So he was not forcing people to do things just because it was his way, but working with people to make the best result for the team. If I can describe his philosophy in some way, I guess that's it.
We are talking here about volleyball wisdom, and you wrote an article where you actually put into question the conventional volleyball wisdom. Let's give an example. I was attending an event where, let's summarize it, Massimo Barbolini says play high ball in transition, and you say don't play high balls.
Well, about this specific point, the high ball is the most difficult ball to set. It's the most difficult ball to score, and it's the most easy ball to defend. So, and this is why we spend a lot of time practicing it, because it's very difficult and very difficult to score. So, one way of thinking about it is that I have to improve the high ball attack and practice the high ball attack. Another way of thinking is that maybe we have to make situations where we don't have to play the high ball, and that we play fast. So that's my answer to that specific point. Just yeah, the fast ball is always easier to score than a high ball. So why should we play the high ball? For me, there are lots of things in volleyball where it was a really good idea in some point in the past, and it was revolutionary idea in 1972 or 86 or 2005. But the game changes, the people who play the game change, the type of athletes, the mentality of the players, the skills of the players, and a lot of the ideas that we have that were great ideas maybe there are better ideas now. So I'm always, as a coach, because I want to win, I'm always trying to think of better ways to do things, more efficient ways, easier ways that I can get more out of practice, tactical ways that I can find some way to make an extra point or two extra points. And the way that people did it in the past is not the best way to do things now. It's a starting point, but it's not the best way.
Now let's talk about one of these ideas. It is a common understanding that in volleyball errors shall be minimized as much as possible. But your concept is a bit different about risking. Can you explain this idea of yours, that risking is better?
I would be careful to say exactly that, but the point is that in the game you have to win one set. You have to win 25 points, so you have to win these points. And if you don't make mistakes, you aren't winning points. You are hoping that the other team will make a mistake, or that you get another chance in the future to make a point. And this idea is okay. And if you are playing against a weaker team, for example, then it's a really good tactic because the other team is worse. So if you give them the chance to play the ball, they probably don't score. And if they try to risk, they can make a mistake. And so you just play with this idea. But if you're playing against a team that's equal, maybe you have a chance this way. But if you are playing against a team that's better, then if you play without mistakes, you have no chance to win. You are only playing so that the score is not so bad. Because if you play with no risk, you give the team the ball and you give them the chance to make a point. And if a good team, if you give them the ball, they will make a point. You are just hoping that they make a mistake for me, is not a very smart way of playing. You reduce the risk and you say, okay, we didn't lose any points and the other team was just better. But like I already said in the last answer, as a coach, I'm not interested in losing gallantly or losing with dignity or something. I want to win, and if I don't have the best team, I have to try to find a way to win, and to score points before the other team scores a point is, to me, the most logical way to do it. And of course, it can go wrong. So when you risk, by definition, you have a chance to lose. But I think that I have some history now that if you try to win, you have a better chance of winning than if you try not to lose.
Let's switch the tone a bit. Which is for you the most essential change in volleyball in the last 20 years? It could be a specific rule, the use of new technologies, or something else.
I think the biggest change in volleyball in the last 20 years was a generation of players, and I don't know exactly if it's about players or it's about coaches or it's about I don't know why or how this is, but there is a generation of players now that are more ready to take risks, that are more ready to play fast to play fast from defense, and they are ready to play all the skills in this way. And maybe this is somehow it begins from Irvin Engapet. Maybe he is the one that gave everybody the green light to open their imagination. Maybe the coaches started to see things in a different way. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but for me, the volleyball from now is completely different than the volleyball from 10 years ago. There is less high balls. There is more dynamic actions at the net. There is more interesting rallies. The change is the release of imagination in some way.
And what do you think is the statistics influence?
The statistics, I can't speak for everybody, of course, but my idea of statistics has always been that volleyball has a series of repeated actions that you can see that this is one rotation, this is one spiker, that are repeated, and they are easy to record and easy to follow in some way. And so volleyball was one of the very first sports to use some kind of analytics and statistics. So if you go back 40 years or whatever it is. But I see in a lot of places, the statistics haven't changed or developed or improved for that time. We were the first to do a lot of things, and then we were happy with what we have, and we keep working in the same way. And so, for example, how we normally measure reception. The most common ways to measure reception are with a 3, 2, 1, 0 scale, something like that, or the perfect and positive where you talk about perfect and positive and minus errors. So you have some kind of efficiency. And for me, both of those are not very well developed statistics. So one of them means a 3 reception is 1.5 times better than a 2 reception, which is not true, or 3 times better than a 1 reception, which is also less true. And with the positive and errors, you are missing 30 or 40% of the plays, and the 30 to 40% are not equal. There is a difference between a negative reception that's 4 meters from the net and the setter can set it, or 5 meters outside the court that the libero is trying to keep alive. So, and maybe it can be that everybody is doing these things by themselves but not sharing them, which is, of course, is entirely possible. And I hope that there are a lot of smart coaches out there who are doing that. But the normal things that you see on league websites and the published statistics and FIVB, and the statistics are not meaningful in any way. So my quest is to use the statistics to understand how the game works and how the game is played, and then to use that understanding to practice better and to create better tactics and ways of playing.